The infected blood scandal stands as one of Britain's most devastating tragedies, impacting more than 30,000 NHS patients and leading to the deaths of around 3,000 people.
Our next award goes to 3 individuals who have shown unwavering strength and resilience in their very long fight for justice.
From the 1970s to the early 90s, the NHS relied upon blood from high-risk donors to treat patients with blood loss and blood disorders.
I have severe haemophiliacs, which is a blood clotting disorder, so I need injections regularly.
I had my first child when I was 22 years old. I lost quite a lot of blood. A blood transfusion saved my life, but it changed my life forever.
Without patients' knowledge, some of the blood they were treated with contained life-threatening viruses, HIV and hepatitis B and C.
I didn't know the person that was my dad, Jonathan Evans. My dad was infected with hepatitis B, hepatitis C and HIV. I was 4 years old when he died.
I was constantly tired and just got worse and worse and worse. I would be so cold.
My mum took me out for a drive one day. We parked up and she was looking straight ahead and she got tears in her eyes. And she said, "You've got HIV and we don't know how long you've got left to live."
Around 30,000 people in the UK were infected with HIV and hepatitis. But for years, the authorities denied there was a problem.
This is a very minor infection. We don't have any proof that it's coming through blood, and everything continues for the moment as at present.
From such a high level, we'd been told lies and gaslit, and I had the urge to hold these people to account.
Thousands of campaigners, including Andrew Evans, Michelle Tolley and Jason Evans, took on what's been described as the biggest NHS treatment scandal in history.
I didn't want anyone else to go through what I'd been through. The government had to do something, and they had to do it right.
It has been non-stop, endless, every day.
We must have sent out thousands of emails. We've just been battling and battling and battling.
I have spent hundreds of hours going through files, going through documents.
This is what it must be like to go to war.
Finally, in 2024, a full public inquiry was delivered, 40 years after the contaminated blood was first discovered.
This disaster was not an accident.
The inquiry found that the authorities knew the blood could have been infected, but continued its use for years.
It was almost like you've been waiting your whole life for that one moment.
I never thought that I would hear those words said by somebody in authority, that we were right.
An estimated 3,000 people have died, and victims are still coming forward. The total cost of compensation is expected to run into billions of pounds.
All of those people who had fought and died, it had taken far too long, but we were there.
For everyone impacted by this scandal, the fight for the truth is over.
We are all warriors, and we slayed the dragon.
Please welcome Andrew Evans, Michelle Tolley and Jason Evans.
Okay. Andrew first. It is the most disgraceful scandal in NHS history. And for many of us, until Sir Brian Langstaff issued the report earlier this year, we weren't particularly aware of it. I want to talk about your story. How was it when your mum told you at age 15 that you had contracted HIV?
I was actually 13. She,
13?
Yeah, she She'd obviously planned this drive out into the countryside, and we parked up, and she just looked at me with tears in her eyes, and I just wondered what could be wrong. And then she told me, she said the factor 8 has had this virus in it called HIV, and it's killing people, and we don't know how long you've got left to live. But of course, being 13 and invincible, all I wanted to do was to, protect my mum. I didn't want to see her upset. So I pretended that everything was okay, told her I'd become a scientist, cure it, and all the bravado that you put up in front of your parents, when they're upset.
And there were some children, Trelawn's College in particular, where the children who were haemophiliacs were treated as guinea pigs when the staff knew that these blood products were infected, and they carried on giving it to these children.
Yeah.
Some of those children were told they had contracted HIV without their parents present.
That's right, yeah. And the Trelaws is a microcosm of the entire scandal. There were children across the country who were experimented on as children, we now know, which we've been saying for decades, but now at least we know because of the inquiry. But Trelaws, as I say, was a microcosm. It was where they got children captive away from their parents and chose to deliberately experiment upon them and monitor them to see whether they got infected with these viruses, so they could see whether the blood products were safe or not. And most of those children, unfortunately, passed away now.
Yes, they have.
Honestly, every time I speak to you, every time I see that film, I'm in complete shock. Jason, 3,000 people died and countless lives impacted. How important was it for you to fight for everyone affected?
It started off for me because of my dad.
Yeah.
But it became, on a personal level, much bigger than that. And, every day all I can think is how difficult that fight was is nothing compared to the physical ill health, the psychological damage that people like Andy and Michelle have experienced as a result of those infections. And I think we're all really clear that we're here tonight on behalf of a whole community.
Yeah.
Hundreds, if not thousands of people who have fought going back to the 80s to get the truth out, to know the truth. And as much as people may want to thank any of us as individuals, people may want to say, thank you for pushing to get the inquiry, for presenting the compensation framework. None of it would have been possible without our whole community and our strength in numbers pushing for that.
Truly stand on the shoulders of giants. There are people that have gone before us who are no longer here. That mean that we can be here today and saying, we have had this inquiry, the truth is now out, and hopefully by the end of this year, the first people will be receiving compensation.
But almost on behalf of that community, how did it feel to finally, in public, hear the results of that inquiry?
Well, the word, we've all used since that day and on that day is vindication. When you've spent, for me, it was a decade of my life. For Andy, it's much longer. Michelle, it's been years of your life too. Fighting for one moment.
Yeah.
And it comes and you hear those words that say, actually, successive governments were wrong.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical giants were wrong. The officials lied, all while people died. And actually, you were right. That meant everything.
And it shows that, when...
Michelle, at the inquiry, and I watched it, it was astounding. It was one of those moments in British history where those of us who weren't involved could hardly believe our ears, really. Documents have been destroyed, evidence have been destroyed, lies have been told for years and years and years. Tell me how you felt that day.
Well, I didn't find out I had hepatitis C for 28 years. Sorry, I'm going to go off track slightly here. There's still people walking around in our country that are still infected with hepatitis C, that don't know where they was missed in the past, like what I was. The Hepatitis C Trust is out there for anybody who had a blood transfusion before the mid-90s. You know, if you think that you're at risk, there's an online, it's a free test that you can send off for now. For me, it's raising awareness, because if it happened to me, how many more me's are out there? And it could have happened to someone you know, any of us. And I know because it happened to me. And I just wanted to raise awareness that, yeah, I didn't want anyone to go through what I'd gone through all these years, wondering why I'd been so ill all the time. The doctor in the 90s sending me away saying, well, of course you're tired, Michelle, you've got 4 young children, what do you expect? And don't be silly, you won't have that. And I did have that. And so this is why I think until the last breath I've got in my body, I am going to continue to raise awareness, and hopefully that we can get everybody treated now, because it's very curable now, very easy treatments now, not like what Andy had.
We spoke a little bit, didn't we, about the fact that there is no real compensation that can ever really compensate for what's happened. But this has been your lived experience for decades. So the big question is, what's next? What's the next step?
For so long, people have lived with these infections, being unable to speak about them. You know, it goes back to the 1980s. HIV in the 1980s was taboo. Yeah. It was so stigmatised. And there are still people today that will hide behind closed doors, that will not tell anybody that they've been infected. I hope the inquiry was a step towards this, but certainly tonight, I'm really pleased that this scandal will be fully recognised in this country, because I hope those people will be able to come out and say, yes, own this, because this happened to me, it's happened to them, and they can stand up and be proud about it and not hide anymore.
And feel recognised, and actually feel recognised that they're believed, that this horrendous, horrific tale is true.
It's true.
And can I just add to that? I'm so pleased, I'm so happy that you are up here tonight and you've won this award, because for 30 years you've been lied to, gaslit, ignored. And I want to just take this moment to say that we hear you, stand with you, wholeheartedly support you. Honestly, guys, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, of course, with your awards, a sporting icon and a screen icon, who are both proud to use their voice to speak up for others. It's 2-time Olympic champion Dame Kelly Holmes and actor and Pride of Britain judge Michael Sheen.
First of all, I want to say thank you for never giving up. When you were being told that what you were fighting for never actually happened, you must have felt like you weren't being seen, you weren't being heard. Thank you for fighting for all those families who have been infected and affected by this, and I include my own family in that. And for all those people who haven't made it, who are not here with us. And thank you for inspiring all those people who are out there now, who are fighting fights that we haven't even heard of yet, to know that it can be done, and you've proved that. So thank you.
I think you remind us all how important it is to stand up and fight for our rights. And your dedication, your courage has brought justice for the wrongdoing. And you mentioned your community, those that can't be here today and aren't with us today, but I believe their spirit is shouting and clapping as loud as this room does. So well done, and keep up the fight.
Kelly, Michael, thank you so much. And one more time, a huge congratulations to Andrew, Michelle and Jason.